They were greeted by cheers and applause, accolades they richly deserved, after riding almost 4,000 miles through the very heart of America. Their goal was as ambitious as their journey, to let America know that each of us can share the gift of life. The 2004 5 Points of Life Ride.
The mission of the 5 Points of Life Ride is to raise awareness for the need for donors of whole blood, apheresis, organs and tissues, marrow and cord.
Life South Community Blood Centers organized the first cross-country 5 Points of Life Ride in 1997. With the support of national donor organizations and financial assistance from corporate sponsors, additional rides took place in 1998, 2000, and 2002. In 2004, the ride began in Seattle, Washington, as a diverse group of 13 riders worked to become a team. Each has a personal link with one or more of the 5 Points of Life, as a donor or a recipient or parent of a child who needed a life-saving transplant.
I've been a firefighter for over 30 years and spent a whole career trying to rescue people from very bad and life-threatening situations. But I had a personal experience where my 3-year-old son needed a heart transplant. Only having a few days to live, a heart was found, and so he was a last-minute miracle.
My link is I'm a whole blood donor, and I'm on the bone marrow registry. And I started being a blood donor and on the bone marrow registry after the ride 2 years ago when I rode with him, and it was such an inspiring time for me that I felt the need for me to actually go ahead and do that.
In 2002, I got to go to the Winter Olympics, and I heard the story of Chris Klug, the Olympic snowboarder who had a liver transplant, and also Ken Mortsugu, who had 2 family members who died and became donors, and I heard their touching stories along with many other stories. And I've always done community service, and so it became my focus of my community service.
A transcontinental ride from the Pacific to the Atlantic is perhaps the ultimate challenge in cycling. Preparing for it took months.
Well, it's a long ride across America, and I live on a small island, so I have prepared by riding on the island, on the highways and in the hilly parts, back and forth twice. That equals almost 100 miles twice a week.
I just tried to ride as often as possible, even if it was short rides. So this is a big leap for me. I'm not a cyclist in any way, shape, or form. I've always been active, but not at this level.
For South African rider Ashley Dove, just getting to the starting line was a challenge.
The plane ride was something terrible. Economy class are not the most comfortable seats around, and it was a total journey of about 30 hours for myself. I left Durban at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and arrived here at 6 o'clock on the Sunday evening, South African time, 9 hours different to local time.
It promised to be a tough and eventful 7 weeks as the team made its way from Seattle, Washington to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
It's 3,900, almost 4,000 miles. I think we're going across the Continental Divide 3 times, but it's all worth it because if we can save one life, this is what it's about.
At times it will be very, very hard, challenging. Physically, I think emotionally it will be draining. I think it will be intense in many, many ways. I think it'll be probably the most amazing experience of my life.
Every day, the riders participated in special events aimed at spreading the message that everyone can share the gift of life. Along the way, they met thousands of people. Sharon Chilson shared the gift of life with her son.
My son had a kidney disease, and his kidneys were being destroyed. So about 3.5 years ago, he was up for having a transplant, and I was tested, and I was a perfect match, so I gave it.
Tori Nelms is alive today thanks to a bone marrow transplant from a total stranger.
I was at Northwest Harvest Fun Run, and they were explaining to people, which one was me, how there wasn't enough donors for minorities on the list. And I was like, well, why not? So I said, okay, I'll sign up now and I'll get some more information later. And I got more information, and then I just totally forgot about it. And then they called me one day, and they told me that I was a match.
Thousands of United States Postal Service workers have signed up to be potential bone marrow donors. They not only deliver the mail, they're also delivering the gift of life.
It was December 2001, and the transplant in and of itself actually goes a lot like a blood transfusion.
He had a little bit of rejection, but not as much as I thought there could be. But to know that he's like so full of energy and so alive, it's just great.
Well, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, man. The riders experienced America as few of us ever will, passing through the types of places we often only see on postcards. It's a landscape that offers the kind of solitude rare in modern life. But it's also hard work. A bicycle only moves as fast as your legs, except when gravity gives you a boost.
The worst mountain was going after the Cascades. We had a 125-mile day with the pass in the middle. That was tough. And then coming out of Salt Lake, the Wasatch, we got up to above 9,000 feet at much steeper grade than the Rockies. So those were the two toughest. The Rockies have been fun. We've hit about 55 miles per hour on the downhill. So
10:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Time for a second breakfast or an early lunch.
It was so cold. It took me to the summit before I warmed up. It was so cold. But now it's pretty nice.
Rodney Ford holds the distinction of being the only person to participate in every 5 Points of Life ride to date.
I enjoy it. I enjoy the riding, obviously. But it's amazing to me after every ride, the people and the conversations I have who really have no idea about this. And that lets me know that there's always a need for this message. And just like donors, once is not enough. You can always donate more, and there's always going to be a need. So I found that there's a need for Rodney Ford to help spread this message.
In Raritan, New Jersey and Rochester, New York, Ortho Clinical Diagnostics, a longtime supporter of the national 5 Points of Life rides, staged half-day local events. And while the purpose of the ride was serious, there was also a lot of fun.
I want to wish everyone a very safe ride today. Now, no speeding tickets, please. No, I don't have to worry about that. And I feel like I should say something like, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines, but I don't think that fits either.
Nearly 200 people came out in Raritan to show their support. They represented a number of Johnson & Johnson companies.
I work for Ethicon in Somerville.
OCD, baby, OCD.
J&J Corporate Shared Services Recruiting. This is my first ride with J&J.
This was the second 5 Points of Life ride to take place in Rochester. Here, too, the 140 participants were enthusiastic and committed.
It is so very, very important because the need continually rises. In our area alone, at Strong Hospital, there are more than 600 people listed for either kidney pancreas, or liver transplants at this time. About 200 people every year in our region receive a cornea transplant, the gift of sight.
Every day, the riders faced new challenges. The biggest was the not-so-simple task of getting from here to there. But over time, it got easier.
Like the other day when we rode into Nashville, like I didn't even think about the mileage. Like before you knew it, it was like 82 miles. You know, like no big deal. So it's definitely changed. Before it's like, oh my word, I've only gone 5 miles. So yes, it's definitely changed.
Welcome to Nashville, the home of country music. Music City, USA. It's also the capital of Tennessee. The 2004 5 Points of Life riders passed through 9 state capitals during their cross-country journey. Saturday afternoon in October means football in Nashville. This Saturday, the Vanderbilt University football team was looking for its first victory of the season. The 5 Points of Life riders were there looking for a victory, too.
Blood donor, bone marrow donor. Thank you.
A victory over apathy. While in Nashville, the team visited the Vanderbilt University Medical Center and its nationally recognized children's unit. Their guide was Jessica Pasley.
I am the mother of 3 children, a 10-year-old, and I had twins. And the child who's upstairs is one of the surviving twins. Her sister passed away 4 years ago from cancer, the same kind that her sister has now. which is rare.
The riders left behind gifts for the children who were too sick to see visitors.
All right, great, thank you.
Next, they went to a bone marrow registry drive. For many people, the only way to locate a potential marrow donor is through drives like this.
I have a friend who's been diagnosed with leukemia, and he needs a bone marrow transplant, and I'm doing what I can. This is my small part. Do what I can to help.
You know, yesterday we met a little boy that was 3 and had received a bone marrow transplant when he was 8 months old, and he was just doing great.
A ride of this magnitude takes a physical toll. What's less obvious is the emotional price the riders paid.
I miss my children, I miss my wife desperately, but you know that the experience is going to end soon and you're going to leave something behind. I think it'll really hit home, as I've heard other riders in the past say, when you get home and you think about the experience, but that will also be a wonderful time to reflect on everything that was done. It all comes so fast and so furious that we need time to sort of put it all together.
Then came Florida, and the conclusion of the ride, once a distant goal, was now only minutes away. A nearly 4,000-mile journey was almost over. Arrival at the Kennedy Space Center signaled the conclusion of the 2004 5 Points of Life ride. It had been a long, sometimes difficult journey.
After riding across the country, the sense of accomplishment is overwhelming, actually.
Back in Kentucky, we had a little 7-month-old little boy that needed a bone marrow transplant, and a church, a Methodist church in that community, had a blood awareness, and 120 people came in to sign the National Bone Marrow Registry. So there are things that you can't put a number, but the answer is it works every day, and it's been a wonderful experience.
At a special closing ceremony, the riders were called forward one last time and honored for their achievements. Not surprisingly, the end of the road was a source of sorrow, as well as excitement and joy.
As I went across the country and traveled to all these different places, I realized without the blood that I received even, I wouldn't be here, and I would have my great family.
The impact of what the riders did will be felt for years to come. They taught a nation that all of us can give the gift of life, and you don't need to travel 4,000 miles to do it.